Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our fellowship assembly for the month of September 2023. Nice to have see you from all over the place, and for our guest speaker who is up first today, Emily. We're all over the place, and maybe when we're done, we'll give you a chance to figure out where we all are. So some of us have put it in with our names, but we'll do that afterwards. So Emily, thank you for joining us today. And Emily is the Marketing and Outreach Manager for the Guatemala Literacy Project's fundraising partner, known as Cooperative for Education, which is based in Cincinnati, Ohio. With her background in international humanitarian work, Emily's role is to connect with service trip volunteers and student sponsors. So very happy to have you, Emily. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tammy, and thank you all for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about the Guatemala Literacy Project and our mission, which I'm very passionate about. And I have spoken to hundreds of Rotary clubs, mostly virtual, but some of those in person as well. And it's exciting to share our work made possible by Rotary International and Rotarians all around the world. And I have about a 15-minute presentation talking about our program impact in Guatemala. And then if there's time, Tammy, we could do Q&A at the end. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as well as they arise. But let me get my PowerPoint pulled up and shared. 1 second. Okay, can everybody see my screen now? Awesome.
Yes.
So the Guatemala Literacy Project has been partnering with Rotarians for almost 27 years now, and we work across mainly the rural Western Highlands of Guatemala. Has anyone in your club ever been to Guatemala or Central America? See some heads nodding. Yeah, how'd you like it?
Because it's in Guatemala now.
Who's in Guatemala now?
Vicky.
Oh, Vicky is. Oh, awesome. Where at?
Yes. I'm in San Antonio, Aguascalientes, which is 20 minutes outside of Antigua.
Yeah.
And we send our junior high kids, our Básico kids, to a school that is supported by the Guatemala Literacy Program.
Oh,
that's why we chose that school.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. That's awesome, Vicky. Thanks for that work. And yeah, I've been through San Antonio. I've never stayed there, but I normally work out of San Lucas, which is where like our main education center is. But I'll stay in Antigua because I love it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, next time you can come and visit our organization.
Absolutely. This is a picture actually of our last group of Rotarians that we brought down in February. It was our biggest volunteer trip ever. There was about 60 Rotarians from all over, mainly from North America, Caribbean, a lot of Canadians on the trip, but this is our office I just mentioned in San Lucas, Zacatepecas. And they came down to see the schools that they support, and there were some new potential supporters as well. It was a lot of fun. It's about 10 days. We do a great mix of service during the day, visiting schools, delivering supplies, and then fun in the evening and exploring Guatemala as the beautiful country that it is. And a lot of people connect with Rotarians that they've never met as well. So a lot of fun. Here's a photo of my first trip to Guatemala back in 2019. A little bit about me. I actually had been in a nonprofit for a long time and then decided to take a turn in for-profit for several years, got really great at sales, but didn't feel fulfilled at all. So I started looking for a job, and a friend reached out to me and said, hey, there's this small nonprofit in Cincinnati, but the main work is in Guatemala. I think you should apply. And within 10 days, I had the job offer and was on a plane to Guatemala. So it was a big change that was the best decision I ever made in my life. So here I am, fresh in my uniform, just out in the field for the first time, meeting students, delivering supplies, and capturing their stories, which is the main part of my job. And I haven't looked back. It's been a delight. And the main thing that we do is work with supporters from all around the world. About a third of our supporter base are Rotary clubs. So here's what we call the GLP family. It's now surpassed 800 clubs that we work with around the world, which makes us the largest grassroots multi-club, multi-district Rotary project in Rotary history. which is a huge honor. We're hoping to continue to grow this family. And the great thing about virtual meetings now is I can connect with Rotarians from all around the world so much more easily. I can't really expense, a trip to every one of these clubs. So let's connect, virtually now that that's the new norm. But now it's 27 years and counting, and we've raised millions of dollars for this amazing project. And it supports these active programs here. We have 4 programs that really offer a comprehensive approach to education. And so we first started out with the textbook program, which is all of these orange flags. I'm zoomed in here a little bit on Guatemala to the Western Highlands. But we offer textbooks in 5 different subject areas to these schools in need. And that's the biggest project supported by our global grants. And there's 191 textbook projects. We have 136 Spark reading programs, which is the purplish flag. And that's where we come in and educate the primary school teachers on how to actually instruct well in literacy. We come in and teach them over 100 different pedagogical techniques and provide a rich classroom library of over 150 children's books in their classroom, which before oftentimes they had 0. So it's a huge change for these teachers, and we're really setting the foundation for all ladder learning by combating the illiteracy, which is so rampant across Guatemala. And so that's 136 Spark teachers that we support. We have 56 computer centers. So that's where we go in and we partner with an existing school, and either they have a lab or they build out a room to be a computer lab, and our team helps with that. And both the textbook program and the computer programs are on a revolving fund, so they're fully sustainable. The schools pay in a small fee, and over 5 years that money is then used to upgrade the equipment or replace the books. We love sustainability in Rotary, right? And our 4th program, which is our most recent program that came about in the last 10-15 years, is our RISE Scholarship Program. It's the green flags, and those are individual student scholars that we help support. As many of you may know, public school in Guatemala after a certain point is not free. You have to pay tuition, even if, say, the school is very low quality, uneducated instructors, unfortunately, with no resources or help from the government many times. We come in and help keep those kids in school. And so these 4 programs together, we've served over 278,000 students and counting. And we hope to work ourselves out of a job. That's the plan, right? And one thing that we love is the endorsement of Rotarians like Jennifer Jones here. I'm sure you recognized her right away. She has supported our project for 10 years now. Her club was an early adopter of our global grant, and she supported multiple scholarship students through our program. And she joined us back in February with that large group of Rotarians on her Imagine Impact tour. And we could not have been more honored. She's just an absolute delight and a great advocate for our work in Guatemala. So a little bit more background about Guatemala. It's a Central American country, population of about 17 million, and 40% of the population are indigenous. So they're direct descendants from mostly the Mayan civilizations that many of us have learned about. And it's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to. I've traveled a lot. I feel like all of you are world travelers as well. And Guatemala is my favorite destination. It has these beautiful volcanoes, it has lush jungles, eternal springtime as well. And I think the people are honestly the best part of the country. They are so welcoming and vibrant and giving, and I just love their culture. And the toughest part about the people is that they would give you anything, but they have so little. They oftentimes are barely living on a couple dollars a day, and many of them are illiterate. The literacy rate across rural Guatemala especially is 1/3. So only 1/3 of adults can read or write, and oftentimes they can barely write their own name. And so that's one thing that started this Guatemala literacy project, is really tackling what's at the core of the issue, is illiteracy, and helping these families that are mostly indigenous have more opportunities. And so we really want to get these indigenous families out of poverty. We see that graduating from high school really is the key to that. And over 1/3 of these Indigenous families are stuck in poverty because their kids drop out of school, have to go to work or help care for their siblings. And we're trying to break that cycle for generations to come. And so we see factors like poverty, but also rising drug and gang activity in a lot of regions of Guatemala, fueling families fleeing northward into Mexico and the United States to try and seek opportunity. And I feel like we can all agree that people shouldn't have to migrate to survive, and especially children should not have to leave their homes and leave their families to find opportunity and to live. And so we just want to give them options. We want them to have opportunities in school, have opportunities with their families and their home communities so that they can choose, as opposed to be forced to flee for their lives. And we really feel like education is at the core, of all of that. And we see this gap for these students is once they have to start paying for school, that's, an immediate decider for their families. They have to drop out. But even past that, they could stay in school, scrimping together money to stay. But if their school doesn't have books, if their school doesn't have computers, if they don't have teachers that are equipped to teach them at their, grade levels, they're going to be bored, or they're just going to be failing in their classes and not able to compete in the job market. And so we see this cliff here for kids at 5th or 6th grade where they just drop out and they have to go to work, or they start having families of their own, unfortunately. And so we come in with literacy, technology training, career training, and all around life skills for these kids with a support system that helps them bridge that gap and graduate. And before our programs, we see a 1 in 10 graduation rate for students, especially rural students in Guatemala. And with our programs, we see an 80% high school graduation rate. So imagine 1 in 10 students graduating from your high school class. Life would look a lot different for all of us, right? And 8 in 10 is a huge improvement for these kids. And we see 87% of them going on to get jobs or continue study, whether that's in a trade or even at university. And the great thing about these scholarships is that a lot of students can support themselves with the jobs that they get and even help pay for their younger siblings to go to school. So one scholarship is multiplied into many because they break out of that cycle of poverty for their families and oftentimes make 4 to 5 times more than mom or dad make, oftentimes laboring. And life is so much more hopeful for them and the doors open. And we see that 100% of them get out of that extreme poverty level, like the earlier photos, and they're not forced to migrate anymore and break up their families. So really there are results from the work that we're doing, and we just hope to continue to fight, especially illiteracy at the lower levels. In 25 years with the work of so many NGOs and great programs that are fighting illiteracy in Guatemala, we've been able to cut it in half. It used to be 2 in 3 people were illiterate in rural communities, and now it's only 1 in 3. And so what happened when the pandemic came about, right? Things looked a lot different, and we're adjusting to a new normal. We have an amazing team of about 50 Guatemalan staff that work out of San Lucas, who are so smart and equipped to adapt. And so one thing that we did was we stayed engaged with our schools. We stayed engaged with our teachers and helped encourage them to keep the kids coming. Because once the kids dropped out, once they stopped coming when the schools were still open, they didn't return. And so we wanted to keep them excited about learning. And the little kids, they love to read, but we have to encourage them to make time for reading. And so we did this program where we partnered with the teachers to create reading corners at the school in their classrooms, but also give the kids supplies to make them at home. So these are teacher submitted photos of students at home with their reading corners that they created and had reading time and had their books taken home with them so they could continue to read. And it was so exciting to see the teachers continue to get their book deliveries. We worked really hard to make sure that we were still delivering these beautiful children's books, mostly in Spanish. We're trying to expand into Indigenous languages as well. That's just a little bit harder. But the teachers are so proud, and they take such great care of these books and cycle them through the students. And I'm sure all of you know that the light that you see in kids' eyes when they're reading and they get it is one of the most cherished gifts that you can have in education. And here they are presenting their books that were just delivered. Another thing is that we moved our training seminars to also include virtual trainings. So we offered socially distanced, safe trainings for the people who could attend them, but we also went digital too, so that teachers in more far out areas that had internet access could still receive their training. Same here with the textbook training. We made the curriculum available where you can even access it on your phone, which was great because most people have phones there that with the internet, they can access the things that are needed. And a great program that we also put into place that's still happening is the Tarhatonis initiative, where we created these take-home lesson cards that align with the Ministry of Education's curriculum, where the kids could, here's the size of them. Our team designed these, where they could take these home and continue on their curriculum course outside of school. So it was a great way to keep them engaged, keep their parents engaged, and we laminated them so that they were reusable and cycled them through the homes. And I love these photos of what it really is like for kids to be doing homework, right? Look at the background. It's a little bit different than maybe what our homes look like for students studying. And one final initiative that we implemented last year was mental health services for our student. We saw a lot of students struggling with depression and anxiety because of the instability in their homes. Mom and dad were struggling to pay the bills. And there was a lot of pressure on these young kids to drop out and work. So we contracted with mental health services to offer them to the students who need them within our scholarship program, and they have been using it. And so we're going to continue contracting and offering this therapy and encouragement for the kids who are struggling so that they hopefully stay in school and things will get better. But overall, our programs are growing steadily, and our team is doing such an amazing job at working with these local schools, representing the donors that make it possible, and really just creating lasting change in Guatemala. And I feel that together we are going to break the cycle of poverty in Guatemala forever, I hope. And I know that Rotary, again, has been a huge part to make that possible. And I guess a year and a half ago was our 25th anniversary partnering with Rotary. So very exciting. And ways to get involved, right? What's the big question? I know you already are involved in some ways, but if you're interested to get involved more, we invite you to become a sponsor of one of our students. Jennifer Jones, again, is a great example of multiple years of sponsoring a student. You can communicate, write letters back and forth, and even visit them in person if you choose to travel to Guatemala. It's 100 Canadian dollars a month or 80 US dollars a month to fully support a student. So that's tutoring, tuition, uniform, books, field trips, and support from our team. So we have, I think, about 100 clubs that maybe sponsor as a unit, and then we have about 1,000 individuals that sponsor students. You can also come and visit on one of our tours that we offer. We have a Rotary focused tour in February every year. And then we have trips that are open to everyone. So not just Rotary, but Rotarians and non-Rotarians alike that can come with us in February and in July as well. But it's a great time, and we take care of everything. You get yourself there, you fly there, we pick you up, and the rest is a well-oiled machine. We take you everywhere. And then we also have a global grant every year that if you would like to support, we can help you figure out how to get matching from your district to multiply your gift. Even a small gift of $100 is a great way to get involved with this global grant. Again, we have normally 100 clubs per year that contribute to our global grant, which is upwards of $600,000 per year. And it helps provide the computers and the textbooks, which is huge. But I just want to thank you so much for letting me talk about our work. Again, I think we're doing amazing work, and we're going to keep at it, and are welcoming questions and any feedback on the work that we're doing, because we just want to hope to continually improve. But yeah, thanks again. What questions do you have about our work?
One of the pictures just a few slides back showed the
Mhm.
young man in front of a bunch of boxes. What were those for? Compass, I think it said, or
I think that these were textbooks.
oh, okay. I
That's
wondered
the
if it
name
was
of the
something.
school. Yeah, that's the name of the
Ah,
school it was going to. Yeah, but these are all the textbooks being delivered.
great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, of course. I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody.
Okay. Well, that was very interesting, Emily. Hopefully some people have a few questions here for you. We have some time. Vera won't be joining us today, so we're not so pressed for time now.
I have a question.
Yeah, hi, Vicky.
Are you willing to share your email address and you and I get
Absolutely.
in touch with each other?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, but I can also have Tammy share it out with the club. Any of you are welcome to contact me anytime. But I'd love to connect with you, especially. I might be back. I'll be staying in Antigua and then like going about the country, but in February is when I'll be back in country.
Okay, well, we'll work at connecting.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. Okay, thank you.
It's great to connect with you.
Emily, I'll be sharing the presentation for today on our weekly bulletin, so there'll be contact info in there as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Where do the textbooks come from, Emily? If they're in Spanish, do they come largely from Mexico as the closest, or do they produce them in country?
We create them all ourselves. We do partner with a third party, but we print them in country and store them in a warehouse in San Lucas. Yeah.
Right. So that indirectly helps the country as well. And
it absolutely does. Yeah. That was a very intentional step as well. And that revolving fund makes it even more, sweet because we're simulating the economy there, but the schools are bought in as well and they have that investment.
Hi, I'm Libby. I'm past president of Jasper Rotary Club and co-chair for international services there. And I'm just coming in as the district global grants chair for District 5370. So I've got lots of learning to do. And it's kind of exciting, this police literacy project. I've always kind of wondered about it because we've been running a program in Jasper, which is called Adopt a Schools for Alatenango, Guatemala. And it's our second global grant that we're writing right now. We're starting to try to put it in place. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it. My big question right now is how are the schools selected and also partnering?
That's a great question. One, thank you for the work that you're doing, and you're welcome to check out our request for funding on our website if you need a little inspiration. Check that out anytime, because we've been doing it for many years.
Yeah.
But for our selection process for our schools is very rigorous. The staff in Guatemala, they are local facilitators who are kind of responsible for certain regions of the country that we work in, and they're very present in their communities. Many of them live in those regions. And they maintain relationships with the schools that are in the program, and we can continue to audit them. We continue to make sure that they are on track with our program and the way that we operate. But when we bring in new schools, we actually go in and do a rigorous screening process of those schools with the principals, with the teachers. And oftentimes the selection process is hard. We have to turn people away. We can only bring in so many new schools per year, and our entire team within that program. So each of the 4 programs has a team dedicated to reading, to the computers, to the textbooks, and to the scholarships. And the whole team decides which schools are selected or not. And then they are continuously checked in on and audited. So yeah, it's a very complicated process, but I know they do a great job, and we have schools reaching out to us all the time to join, and it's hard to say no, but they do a great job monitoring the right schools to partner with.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the, I don't know whether it's true or not, but so my other that's working with me is a person that goes down in Guatemala and makes sure that this project actually is implemented and that the funds are correctly spent and whatnot. But one of the messages that's come back to her or about our project is that it is dealing with the poorest of the poor. So these people are too poor to put their to put money into the school, the government schools. So my assumption is that you people for Belize literacy do not deal with the poorest of the poor, but you deal with more of a government structure. You know, can you help me with that, or am I my wires crossed there?
No, I think I understand what you're asking. So we do work with the Ministry of Education some, but we can't count on funding from them with the administrations. You know, we never know. So we're very self-reliant. And so we do work with the poorest of the poor. Most of the rural communities that we're serving in, many of these students are in absolute poverty. But they don't have to contribute. Depending on which program the students are in, we don't require financial contribution from the families. Some of them, it's maybe like $1 a month, depending on what program they are, because it's the school collects funds from the families to put into that revolving fund. So the computers and the textbooks, but it's a very minimal fee of maybe like $1 a month. But that's even, you know, a stretch for some of these families. And so it's a case-by-case scenario where we see some families that are less poor than others, but we see a lot of students that come in that they live in, you know, a lean-to hut with a dirt floor. And so we see a huge spectrum. We work the least probably in more urban areas. So we more focus on the Western Highlands, and that is where you see the really isolated poor communities. But we're not expecting much financially from them, if at all, because we're here to help them. I hope I answered your question okay.
Yeah, that answers well. I will try to get your connect with you and talk a little bit more
Absolutely.
about maybe we can get our project partnered with you, because of course we're looking for funding, and it'd be good to be working together as a whole.
Absolutely.
Rotary.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and great presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Emily, can I ask your registration status? Are you Canadian registered charity as well as US?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a Canadian entity called Canadian Friends, and we go through it's slipping my mind right now, but is it Canada Helps, I believe is who we're registered
Canada
through?
Helps.
Yes. So yeah, we are a Canadian registered entity, and we have a Canadian advisory board, which most of those board members are Rotarians, and they help us oversee all of the Canadian gifts. So if you did choose to support financially, it would go through that entity and through Canada Helps.
Right.
Great. Anybody else have a question?
Yep.
Go for it, Kit.
Okay, so Emily, how much lead time do you need to make a presentation like this? We're members of the Rotary Club of Medicine Hat in Alberta. And also, so that's first question. And then the other question is, have you presented to the Granville, Ohio Rotary Club yet? The Rotary Club.
Granville, Ohio. I'm answering the questions in opposite order. I don't know if I have. I have presented to a lot of Ohio clubs, but I don't know if I've spoken to Granville, but I can look in my little database and see. Do you have connections there?
Yeah, well, my brother used to be president of the club when he was alive, but it's a very wealthy community, and they might be a real good source.
Okay, I'll put that on my prospect list if we haven't already talked to them. Where is I'm not native to Ohio, so I don't know.
So it's out just outside of Columbus, about 45 minutes away. Okay.
I'll put them on my list. And so lead time, in the right circumstances, you know, if someone reaches out and they are in a pinch and they need a speaker, I'll absolutely step in and speak.
Okay.
I normally say like a week notice at minimum, just so that I can make sure that I'm available and prepared. But I've also filled in, like I've had people reach out, they've had cancellations, you know, the day before, and I've stepped in as well. When I know that they are very interested clubs, I'll absolutely come and speak about our work. I love doing it. We're all super busy. So yeah, if you have clubs you want to connect me with, or districts, just reach out anytime. And I have a group of volunteer speakers as well that are Rotarians that support, and they like to speak, but their schedules are a little more spread thin. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you were very articulate, very.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, yep.
I appreciate that.
If I can ask another question, what is the student population of Guatemala? Do you have any idea, like what rough numbers as to how many sort of school-age children there are in the country?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I was about to consult Google. I know the population is it's between 17 and 18 million, but that's a great question, Keith. Let me see. I'm curious if Vicky knows that off the top of her head. I'd be very impressed. Yeah,
I mean, one would think that because it's probably a young population, so you're probably talking maybe 25 to 30% of that number are probably school-age
Google
kids.
says 3.5 million in primary and secondary, but it says that, or excuse me, that says that they could be enrolled. It might be around 2.3 actually enrolled, 2.3 million.
Right.
Yeah, with a
that's-
steep dropout rate
Yeah,
right after
yeah.
primary school. Yeah.
Because it gives some flavor for the extent of the task that you face, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, that over 250,000 statistic that I shared earlier is impressive, but think about the students we haven't reached yet.
For sure.
Which of course there's a high population in Guatemala City of students, and the schools are historically better. That doesn't speak for all of them, but typically there's more resources allotted to the urban schools. So yeah. Good question though. Yeah. David, did you have a question?
I was going to say the life expectancy is probably not probably
it is lower. I don't know the age, but I know that many people there, especially that are indigenous, they work a hard life their entire lives. So we'll meet parents that maybe are only in their 40s or 50s, and they look much, much older, significantly older. And there is, unfortunately, a lot of malnutrition as well amongst children. Through adulthood, a lot of the families, they really eat just a lot of corn, a lot of tortillas, and some meat. It's mainly their diet, and so there's a lot of malnutrition and a lot of issues with health early on. Unfortunately, a lot of dental care issues. So you'll see many Rotary projects in Guatemala that are helping families with severe dental issues and a lot of vision issues as well. So there's many a Rotary project there. Of course, not to mention water projects, which is one of the earlier projects needed globally. Many Rotarians there helping with that too. So a lot of factors that are just against these kids, which is really difficult. Any other questions? You all have asked super relevant, super pertinent questions. Thank you.
Well, great. So we have Jim Kenyon joining us. Haven't seen you in a while, Jim. Conrad as well. Haven't seen you either. It's great. And Judy's on a ship in Portugal, Judy?
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah, we're on a Viking cruise.
Very
in
good.
Portugal on
Wow.
the Douro River. Yeah, fantastic. We just got back from a half-day excursion, so it's been great.
Very good. Very good. So, and some of the other folks, Emily, are from now. Those of you who didn't put where you're living on the screen beside your name, could you just tell us where you're at for Emily's sake so she can see what a varied group we have? Doug, we'll start with you. Doug, can you tell us where you're at?
Okay, so yeah, I'm the club nomad.
Yeah.
I've been traveling for 7 years. My wife and I travel around the world looking after people's homes and pets.
Oh, that's wonderful. So where are you at currently?
Little village in Italy.
Oh, that's what you said at the top of the meeting. Okay. Yeah. I actually Googled it because I was curious because my grandfather's from east of Rome, but you're up north in the north part of Italy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Great.
I'm
And
jealous.
Libby is a guest from the Rotary Club of Jasper. So Libby, that you reside right in Jasper, right?
Actually, no, I reside in Nanaimo, BC. So that's one of the neat things about COVID is we've been able to kind of reconstruct the club that way to be able to
Good.
zoom in from all over the world.
I've actually
Awesome.
spoken to the Nanaimo Club before virtually.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. And Conrad?
Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, great.
Right. And Patrick?
Edmonton.
Alberta, right? And Kit and Dieter?
We're Medicine Hat, Alberta.
And Jim Kenyon?
I'm up in Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, which sits a little bit above the 60th parallel.
You know where Vicky is. Hopefully you two will connect in person at some
Yes.
point.
I'm
And
very
Judy
excited.
and her husband Ron are.
There's
is that-
Ron. Ron, say
Yeah.
hi. Where are you? Oh, there he is, somewhere.
And they live in Pigeon Lake, Alberta, most of the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Winters
Wonderful.
in Mexico. Yeah, exactly.
Doug, where were you when you were in Portugal? Doug, where were you?
Oh, you're muted, Doug. There he is.
I've been all over Portugal. I've seen it from north to south. So,
What is your favorite place that you've been able to live, Doug? I'm curious if you can pick one.
That's a tough question, Emily.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we do everywhere we go is wonderful. You know, I don't really judge places one to the next. We absolutely love where we are right at the moment. It's really, really lovely place.
When
we
we-
were in Sicily earlier this year, which is lovely. If I could afford it, I'd probably live in New Zealand. We just came from the west coast of British Columbia, which is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. So,
Yeah.
so
Wow,
the
that's
world.
awesome. Yeah.
Just before we started the meeting, Doug and David and I were talking, and I said, "What is the food good where you're at?" And he said, "Would you like to rephrase that question? I'm in Italy."
Yeah, absolutely.
And not everybody will know where Addleston is, but it's in the United Kingdom. I live just outside London in the UK.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Yeah, we have some supporters in the UK as well. Some of them now have permanently moved to the Caymans as well, which I'm very jealous of.
And Kitty is we do our meetings online once a week. You can log in anytime, any place to do your weekly meeting, your obligation. And Kitty is our editor of the weekly meetings. So,
oh, great.
In Ontario, she's a teacher, former teacher, so she would find this very interesting as well.
Thanks for your work, Kitty. That's great. My background is in education as well, so it's
I'm fascinated.
it's a joint effort.
One of the things I like is to teach people to read. I have 2 grandkids who are 8 and 12, and I love that. I'm a grammar person, grammar and spelling, and so it's fun.
Yeah, definitely.
When you mentioned the West Indies there, I worked with a gal. She was from St. Kitts. And I said, well, how did you end up, in close to the Arctic? And she said, I'm a terrible West Indian. It's too damn hot. It's too damn hot. So she moved to the Yukon.
Oh, wow.
The other extreme.
And I'm in Anguilla in the winter. So if you know where Anguilla is.
I do, yeah.
I'm
Judy,
just
are you
going to
Lisbon?
stop the recording so we can continue chatting. I'll just